Welcome to the A to Z Sports Big Orange Podcast. I'm Charlie Burris. That is Zach Regan. I got my music back this week, so the intro sounds a lot cooler than just me screaming into a microphone at the very beginning. Wherever you listen throughout the world, we thank you so much for listening to us. My YouTube video is playing in my ear. I got to kill that. Hold on one second. Ugh. There we go. Now I got it. Wherever you listen throughout the world, forgive us for our technical glitches. We thank you so much for listening to us. We talk everything balls every week here on the Big Orange Podcast. If that sounds like something you want to listen to regularly, go over to the A to Z Sports Podcast Network feed. Rate, review, but most importantly, subscribe. If you do subscribe, you won't miss our show when we drop them on Mondays. And speaking of Mondays, it is not one right now because this past Monday was Memorial Day, and so we didn't record. But we are recording on Tuesday. And you can, whenever we are live, it is usually Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube, on the A to Z Sports Nashville YouTube channel. You can tune in there, drop into the comments, very literally be a part of the show. It's a ton of fun. We love responding to the comments and having a good time. So subscribe there and then turn on the notification bell and you'll be able to join us live on YouTube at Charlie_Burrs, at Zach TNT, at A to Z Sports, A2ZSports.com for everything Zach writes on the internet. And I think we're on Facebook and Instagram and all the stuff. The Big Orange Podcast on Instagram. Go follow that if you're so inclined. Lots of Tennessee content all over the place. This is going to be a good show, Zach, because we got some pretty fun stuff lined up, specifically here's, we like to say that we're definitely fans first, Zach and I, although Zach does literally write about sports as a job. He's not day-to-day at Tennessee doing all this stuff. I used to be, but I am no longer. I'm a fan first. But we got some actual media stuff today. We got exclusive interviews with a couple of Tennessee recruits that our boy Austin Stanley got today at the On 3 event that was put on in Nashville. He was there and interviewed some recruits, and we're going to play those on the show today and talk about what they might mean for Tennessee. It's going to be a good one. What's up, Zach?
Yeah, some big recruiting targets that Austin talked to out there in Nashville today at the On 3, the NIL series that they're putting on out there. So a lot of good talent that could be making its way to Rocky Top. We'll see how it all plays out before the early signing period in December.
Absolutely. Do we have is this real or is this a parody? Is this a Texas fan in the comments right here? Why would any athlete want to go to the other UT team? The real UT team resides in Austin, Texas. There's cool stuff in Austin, Texas.
Oh, yeah. Great city.
Yeah. It's just like Joe Rogan has done the whole comedy club thing, and there's barbecue. But the school there, I mean, Tennessee beat them in basketball, just annihilated them in softball. Tennessee went 11-2 in football. Basketball, I don't remember what Texas did, but here's the thing.
They fired their coach. I remember that.
Oh, yeah, Chris Beard. That's right. Chris Beard got fired. So you tell me who the real UT is. And then, and of course, the thing that Tennessee fans always love to bring up, the University of Texas wouldn't exist without the state of Tennessee. And so don't ever forget that. But hey, any and all fans that want to watch this show, we're equal opportunity. We'll throw shade at your way.
Yeah, and look, it won't be long. We should know soon. We'll talk about this at the end of the show, but it won't be long before Tennessee and Texas play in football in the next couple of years at the latest.
That's true. That is definitely true. And it's going to be a lot of fun because it's kind of been built up with these out-of-conference games and just things that have happened. Tennessee played Texas in the College World Series 2 years ago. Texas did win that one. So it's been back and forth. And Big Ten Jeff says the real UT is in Tulane. I believe that would be TU, not UT, right? University of Tulane, I guess. Tulane University?
I mean, you could go either way. I mean, it's kind of like South Carolina. You see USC, you see SCU. I mean, which, what is it? I guess it's whatever floats your boat there. It is
Tulane University, so it is TU. Sorry, Jeff. Wrong. But anywho.
Like you took a little extra delight in that one.
Yeah, it's always nice to stick it to Big Ten Jeff. He deserves it. But just to give you a quick rundown of the show, we're going to start off by talking about these great interviews that Austin got at the On 3 event today. And then we're going to move into, obviously, the NCAA tournament with baseball, and softball is in the College World Series. Well, shout out to softball. And then we're going to finish up with a discussion that we promised last week, how these rule changes that are coming are going to affect Josh Heupel's offense. And then in that same thing, talking about rule changes and changes to the league, we're going to talk a little bit about potentially, is the SEC going to go to 8 or 9 games overall with the upcoming schedule? And we'll cover all of that right after I tell you about our first amazing sponsor, and that is Omaha Steaks. Let me get my info up here. Whether he's your father-in-law, or father figure, he's the guy who was always ready to step up when you needed him most. This Father's Day, show him the love with the only gift that's as unforgettable as he is, the mouth-watering perfection of Omaha Steaks. From perfectly aged, oh so tender steaks to hand-selected gift packages, Omaha Steaks makes it easy to give Dad what he really wants. Order today and get $30 off with promo code VOLS. That is VOLS. And every purchase is backed by their unconditional money-back guarantee. That is right. OmahaSteaks.com. Go there right now and use promo code VOLS, VOLS, and check out for $30 off your qualifying order. Packages can include fork tender, bacon wrap, filet mignons, gourmet grillables like air-chilled boneless chicken breast, burgers, jumbo franks, and many other favorites. Lordy, it's so good. They just sent me another shipment this past week. It's insane how great their stuff is. Go to Omaha Steaks and get it. Check out their hand-selected packages that are guaranteed to make Dad's day, because if there's one thing we know, it's that dads want steak. And don't forget that. Minimum order may be required. See site for details. That is Omaha Steaks, promo code VOLS.
Yeah, I was looking forward to cooking some of those steaks this weekend that they sent us, but the weather was not very Memorial Day-like, so they're going to have to put that off to another weekend here.
Yeah, Mother Nature betrayed us this weekend for Memorial Day, unfortunately, but it was cold here. It didn't rain that much. It's cold. It's gross. But let's get right to this. First things first, again, our very own Austin Stanley of A to Z Sports, the A of A to Z Sports, was at the On3, I believe it was the On3 NIL, what was the official name?
On3 NIL Elite Series, maybe that's what it was.
Yes. It's essentially to teach recruits about NIL, name, image, likeness, so that they can wade into those waters in an educated way, rather than, just going in blind and being like, just give me $10 million, let's go. And so it's hopefully to avoid things like what happened with like Jaden Rashada at Florida and stuff like that. It's a cool event, but media got to come and interview these guys, and A to Z was lucky enough to be invited. We're that official. What's up to everybody that thinks that we're not actual, media in some sense. We are, but we aren't. I'll put it that way. And so Austin first interviewed 5-star linebacker Sammy Brown. And first of all, this kid's hair, man, he has a mullet for the ages. My Lord, it's like a Jerry curl, like a blonde Jerry curl. He is killing in the hair department, and we would have video of it. There is video. But I'm too stupid to load it into the system. I don't know how to do it. So it's going to be all audio tonight. But this was the first clip, and this is him talking about he just visited Tennessee. And so this is huge. I mean, Tennessee needs every 5-star linebacker, 5-star anything that they can get. But 5-star linebacker, he just visited Tennessee for the 865 live event that Tennessee had over the weekend, which is really interesting. We're going to go into it. But we'll kind of let Sammy Brown first explain what happened here. So I'll play that clip. It's like 2 minutes, I think, if even that. And then Zach and I will talk about it. So here we go.
But a lot of Vols coverage, and you're just in Knoxville. How was the visit overall?
It was really fun. I had a great time up there, and they definitely are doing the right thing. And I think Coach Heupel said it best. He said, it's the right place with the right people at the right time, and they've done great the past 2 years, and I think they're just going to continue to get better.
I've heard a little bit about the 865 Live. What was that all about this weekend?
That was really fun. I think it was good to hang out with some of the other linebacker recruits. Edwin Spillman was there and a couple other of those, and hang out with some of the commits like Jake and all them, and just know what Tennessee's going to be like in the next couple of years, and know who's coming up there with the commits, and know what that culture is going to be like when I'm there. So it was good to hang around them and just get a feel for their personalities and the way they do things, and it was a fun event too. I think we got second. So
what second and what? Just kind of describe the whole concept of.
So there was a scavenger hunt, and then there was a talent show, and then we had like a putt competition basically. And the linebackers ended up getting second overall. I think we won putt. So
nice. What was your talent?
We sung a song and we had like a dance to the song. It was pretty funny.
Which song?
I can't remember the song. It was a slow song, so we had to like slow dance with some of the girls. Like some people went and got their moms and stuff. It was pretty funny.
That's great. So Georgia kid, you're kind of like right there outside of Athens, and you've been watching Georgia the last several years put this together, and then Tennessee all of a sudden out of nowhere, it feels like last year. What was that like watching as you were kind of looking at both programs right there?
I mean, I knew when Coach Heupel got there that was going to happen eventually. He's done a great job of turning that culture around and turning it into a great place with a great culture. And he's done a great job. And then Coach BJ in the linebacker room has done a great job too. He's going to continue to get better recruits in there, and that linebacker room is going to be really, really good.
What is your view as a defensive player about the style of offense Tennessee plays?
I think a style like that makes the defense better. I think
okay, let's stop here. So, great interview. It's from Austin there. There is more to it. Will you be posting that on A to Z? Did you say you already did?
Yeah, I wrote one article about some stuff he said, and there is actually video in that article that you can see of Sammy Brown and his hair.
I want to plug that. Go to A2Zsports.com, read Zach's article that has the video in it, and you can see more than just what I just played. But he describes this 865 live event. This is pretty off the wall. This is like, dare I say, innovative stuff from Tennessee's recruiting staff and Josh Heupel. I mean, there's not a whole lot of ways to reinvent the wheel at this point in recruiting. I mean, you can only do so much, although NIL has definitely changed that landscape. But they brought these kids in and had like a competition with all of these super high-end recruits where they had a talent show and as he said, their putt competition, a scavenger hunt, all these things running all over the city of Knoxville. And at first pass, you go, are high school kids going to think that's like hokey? But then you looked all over social media. It seemed like these kids were super into it. He said he had an amazing time. Sammy Brown did. What were your thoughts on this 865 live event?
Well, two things. One, before we get into the 865 live event and all that went on and that whole conversation, did you catch during Sammy Brown's interview there with Austin what he said about the culture? I don't know if you caught. I'm sure it was just a little slip up by him, but maybe it was like one of your Freudian slip or something. He said, what the culture is going to be like when I'm there.
Yeah, I did notice that.
So I don't know if he, it's just we all misspeak at times, but hey.
Is this an A to Z Sports exclusive? Sammy Brown to Tennessee confirmed? Is this?
Yeah, I don't know if I go that far. I'm just pointing it out. He did say when I'm there, so
he did.
We'll see.
He
said if that pays off. Yeah. Not twisting any words there. I mean, the audio is there for you to all to hear. But as far as the actual event goes, I think if you just hear the word like scavenger hunt and putt and these different kind of things, like you can kind of roll your eyes at that a little bit. But it's about the atmosphere when everybody's there. If you're with your friends, people that you get along with, people that you want to hang out with, anything's kind of fun, right? It's all about the bonding time that you're there. You're building those relationships. And I think really that's how Josh Heupel is trying to recruit these kids. We heard from various recruits that were there this weekend. Boo Carter told 24/7 Sports, another, probably going to be committed to Tennessee later this summer, and certainly trending that direction. They didn't talk football Saturday. It wasn't about football. It was just about building those relationships with other recruits. And it feels like Josh Heupel's trying to create the atmosphere that they'll be coming into if they come to Tennessee and showing them that on these trips. And I mean, it's brilliant if it works. It's obviously that's not going to land every 5-star kid that comes through. I mean, they might enjoy their time, but they might like Georgia better. They might like Clemson better. Who knows when it comes to recruits, but it really is a interesting strategy by Heupel and his staff to kind of have these big events like this and to just have everybody get together. And hey, they start building relationships together at Tennessee, and maybe that's what flips, changes their mind to go to Tennessee instead of another program, or maybe it's what breaks a tie in their mind if they're down to two programs and they can't really decide. I mean, it's a really great strategy. And for all the talk about Josh Heupel can't recruit, I mean, he's put a lot of effort into it. He's trying to do some things differently, like you pointed out. He's not really necessarily reinventing the wheel here, but it's a unique environment that they're bringing these players into. So Yeah, he can recruit. I don't think there's any question about that anymore. He's going after the top names in the 2024 class, elite guys, 5-star guys. Not going to get all of them, but he's in the conversation with them. He's not giving up on these guys. He's not setting his sights low. He knows what kind of players he needs to win a championship at Tennessee, and he's doing all he can to get those guys.
Yeah, it's kind of a fascinating experiment just to see this entire thing. I think that's the right way to sort of categorize it, because we've talked about it a ton. When he showed up, I think every Tennessee fan that's paying attention was sort of like, ugh, I don't know. He runs this crazy offense that nobody's ever done in the SEC, and he hasn't recruited at a super high level. And there was that entire aura. Then he goes 11-2. He's proven that the system works. That one's out of the way. The recruiting has been good, but not elite. And so we're looking to him to get to that elite level. That's kind of the next thing that Heupel has to do to prove himself. And so they're going out on these limbs and doing these things that nobody else is doing. And I'm so interested to see if this pays off. And in this next segment, we're going to talk about it may already be paying off potentially. And it just is so interesting because they're thinking outside of the box all over the place. And I'm really just excited to see exactly where this goes and what happens. Because, yeah, again, at first blush, I was kind of like, are high school kids going to think this is a little hokey with all this stuff? And then it seemed like all over social media, they're having a great time, posting all about it. And then, posting all about it. And, of course, recruits all follow each other. And they all see these things. And they see like, oh, they're having an amazing time in Tennessee. I need to get over there. And it all just sort of trickles down from there, I think. And man, if Lord knows if this thing pays off for Tennessee, it's going to be a whole bunch of dudes next year, a whole bunch of coaches next year having a whatever area code live in Georgia, or whoever in Florida, they're all going to be doing scavenger hunts and doing all these things. If this pays off for Tennessee, and
look, you can recreate, like, these teams, these other programs can try to recreate it, and some of them will, some of them maybe already do, programs that we don't know about this kind of stuff happening. But you can't just say, I'm going to create this type of environment and it's going to happen. It's all about the current coaching staff. All those guys are bought in. They're on board with the way Heupel, they're all on the same page. If you had a couple of coaches that weren't on the same page, all of a sudden the atmosphere isn't quite the same. The culture isn't the same, and it just doesn't work. It would have fell flat. So it's a genuine organic thing that they've kind of created there. And it's, the culture is one of their biggest weapons, not in recruiting, not just in recruiting, but also on the field. I mean, when you have guys that get along like that, there's optimism. Everybody believes they can win. It's just a better vibe. It's, that was the one downside of the Jeremy Pruitt vibe, era, is how bad the vibe was, how negative it was all the time. And you just don't have that anymore. And you can get away with that kind of stuff when you're winning, like Georgia. Kirby Smart's approach is a little different than Heupel's. We've talked about that before, but it's really just showcasing one of their biggest weapons and what life will be like if they come to Tennessee and play there.
We shall see exactly where it goes. Get to a couple of comments here. Nug says, just checking in to say what's up. I'll have to catch the replay. No problem there, Nugs. Thanks for maybe the double view there. Does it count as 2 views if he tunes in right now and later too? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
But Nugs, regular listener, shout out to him. David says, I just want to say I really like the coaches we got. They seem real, not like past coaches. Go Vols. Go Vols, David. I agree. This does just really show, like, as you get older, you kind of notice you just don't give as much of a crap about what people think anymore. And you just kind of, you're like, yeah, I'll wear high-waisted pants and I'll wear these dad shoes, and it doesn't really matter. And you get more comfortable in your skin as you get older. It seems like Heupel is there as a coach already. And he's young in his career. But he's just like, yeah, we're going to do this sort of goofy thing. I don't care what anybody else thinks. If it gets me recruits, it gets me recruits. That's amazing. And it's such a juxtaposition to Butch, and the whole just make me want to jump off the top of Neyland Stadium with everything he used to do. And of course, Pruitt was
Butch tried to do, Butch kind of tried to do some stuff like this. I mean, he tried, this vibe. You were there at times when there'd be the kind of crazy music and just different things going on, where he tried to create this new age environment at Tennessee, and it just felt forced. Like if you were around Tennessee when Butch Jones took over in 2013, it's like, okay, in 2013, I felt optimism because you wanted to feel optimism. You're coming out of the Derek Dooley era. You know that things have to be done different. But the entire time that Butch Jones was at Tennessee, even in 2016 and 2015, when they had pretty decent years and they beat Florida and Georgia in 2016, it never felt like Tennessee football. And when Josh Heupel first came to Tennessee, he talked about, wanting to put a new age approach on Tennessee football while also carrying over those traditions that make Tennessee so special. And Butch tried to do that as well. I mean, he embraced a lot of the Tennessee traditions as well. But it always felt forced, and it just doesn't feel that way with Heupel. It feels like it's just flowing the way it's supposed to. Like the program has naturally evolved into a 2023 college football program that still has those old Tennessee traditions, the running through the tee, just all the maxims that they recite in the locker room before the games, all those different traditions that they embrace. It's all there along with this kind of new age approach, and it just feels right for Tennessee.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Mr. Jones says
this is all that.
Bruce Pearl tried to do some stuff like this too, cookouts, etc. He did. and it worked. It worked until it didn't anymore. But yeah, Kayon here, Kayon. Apologies for however this may be pronounced, but
we mispronounce names on the regular here, so don't
constantly
be too offended.
But he says Butch just couldn't coach. Yep. I mean, well, and on top of that, kind of to David's point there, and he was just fake and just.
He had no backbone. He made the promises to the recruits, and then they get them on campus, and it's like, okay, this isn't a good idea. That wasn't a good idea. But once you've promised it, and then you look like a fool for going back on your word.
Exactly.
Gotta be careful with that stuff.
We'll see if this pays off for Josh Heupel soon enough. I mean, I think in the coming weeks, you may see some dividends, and maybe even the coming days, honestly.
Anytime, especially this summer. I imagine, they've got 11, 12 kids committed so far. I mean, you've got over half the class still to go in 6 months, 5 months, 7 months time, however long until December.
Absolutely. Some pieces are going to move in this time coming up. And one of those we're going to talk about in this next segment, a big crystal ball that just came in for Tennessee. And when I say big, I mean like a straight up class changer. Just got a crystal ball to Tennessee. We're going to talk about that. And it happened, 45 minutes before we got on here. So great timing. Shout out to the guy that did this. We'll talk about it right after I tell you about our next great sponsor, Farm Bureau Health Plans. Farm Bureau Health Plans have been serving Tennesseans for over 75 years. Much has changed in Tennessee over the years, but some have stayed the same. Farm Bureau Health Plans has always valued personal relationships, especially when it comes to good health and good service. Plan on Farm Bureau Health Plans for health, dental, and vision. For better coverage, better rates, and better service, go to fbhp.com/ATOZ or walk into one of their 200 plus locations across the state. That is fbhp.com/ATOZ. Farm Bureau Health Plans. Thanks to them. Support them because they support us. Go get yourself a new health plan. All right. So we're going to lead into this first with another exclusive clip from an interview by our homie, Austin Stanley, who was at if you missed it earlier, he was at the On3 NIL event today. Austin Stanley was there, and he interviewed some recruits, some prospects for Tennessee. And this was another one. He interviewed Ryan Wingo, who's a 5-star wide receiver. Currently, the prediction for Wingo is that he'll pick Georgia. Steve Wiltfong put in that crystal ball. But I think what Ryan Wingo says here can lead into the crystal ball that happened today. Because these dudes play the same position. And so we'll listen first to what Wingo said. This is less than a minute. It's a pretty short clip. And then we'll kind of talk about what happened right before the show through the lens of this clip. So here's Ryan Wingo, 5-star wide receiver, talking to Austin Stanley.
How much did you follow what Jalen Hyatt was able to do last year with Tennessee?
I was following it a good amount, and then once he hit the Alabama game, I was like, shoot, and like he good. So I started watching him a little more too. So I think that Alabama game put him on the map for sure.
Oh yeah, and 3rd round pick. You know, as a guy who didn't really do much the first couple of years. How do you see when you're watching Tennessee, when you're watching some of these other schools? Do you envision yourself playing in those offenses?
Oh yeah, for sure. Just because, like you said, he kind of had the most productive first couple of years, and then that 1 year he just got on the spot from that offensive scheme. It's like, hey, like why wouldn't you want to go there and be a part of that, of somebody going from 30 catches to 70 catches and just a regular person to a Benikoff winner. So it's like it's pretty special over there.
What do you like about what Tennessee's doing?
So there's that. And what I want to emphasize there is specifically what he points out, what Ryan Wingo points out in terms of the things that he noticed. It was the Alabama game. And I mean, we talked about it at the time. Every recruit, that's going to turn the head of every single recruit in America. They're going to go, whoa, look at what Tennessee just did. This is crazy. And then on top of that, obviously, he noticed, look at not just what Tennessee did, but what Jalen Hyatt did. 207 yards, 5 touchdowns. It was insane. I literally have a poster of it hanging up on my wall. And then he brings up the Biletnikoff Award and what that means. And, these guys are going to notice this. And so speaking of 5-star recruits, 5-star wide receiver recruits, noticing all of these things, 45 minutes before we got on here live for the show, Mike Matthews, a 5-star wide receiver from the state of Georgia, you cannot overstate how huge of a get this would be, got a prediction from one of the recruiting folks at On3 that he will choose Tennessee. It was Josh Newberg. He had a tweet, right? What did he say in the tweet, Zach?
I mean, it's a picture of him sitting with Matthews in Nashville today, and said, after hanging out with 5-star wide receiver Mike Matthews, I dropped a recruiting prediction in favor of Tennessee. I mean, that seems kind of telling, right?
Yeah, you would think so. This is crazy because, as I mentioned, maybe you're already seeing this Josh Heupel recruiting strategy pay off. Now, Mike Matthews was actually, I believe, he was not at the 865 Live.
Now, his official visit's later in June.
Yes, June 23rd, I think he's coming in. But the fact that you have a guy, a recruiting analyst, talking to him at this NIL event, gleaning from that he's likely to choose Tennessee before he ever even takes his official visit to it. Now, he's visited Tennessee. Mike Matthews has visited Tennessee. He went to a junior day and he's gone before. But, before he ever even takes his official visit, that is big, big, big. And Lord knows, Mike Matthews saw Jalen Hyatt. Mike Matthews saw NFL Draft Night. Mike Matthews saw the Biletnikoff Award. And these things are going to pay dividends for you if he chooses Tennessee. This could be so big. I don't want to get too hyped over it. The kid has not chosen Tennessee yet in any official capacity. But I mean, man, to get a guy out of Georgia, out of the state of Georgia after they just won back-to-back national championships. Like, come on, folks. This would just be insane, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, anytime you can go get an elite player out of Georgia, one of the top players in the state, and keep them away from Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs, that's massive. And it's at a position where Tennessee can use him and get the most out of him. I am cautious about some of these crystal balls, though, with him not taking this official visit yet. He's got some more visits coming. Recruiting's so fluid, and not to pour cold water all over this whole conversation, but it is you're really stepping out to make any sort of prediction for a recruit, especially a 5-star that's going to be highly coveted, that some of these programs are going to be going back and forth, really trying to get this guy. It could come down to the very, right before he signs. I mean, you never know. Even when they're committed, you still don't know, especially with the wide receiver, how this will all play out. So it's obviously it's a great sign. It means Tennessee's right there in the mix, but I'm nowhere close to wanting to say, hey, they're going to land this guy just because of this one prediction.
Yeah, even just the fact that I agree, 100% agree. I'm not going to get too hyped over this until this kid puts pen on paper with an NLI, not an NIL. It just is not real until it's real with recruiting, because these kids change their minds constantly. They want to go through the process. My recruiting's open. My blah, 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 blah. We all know. And so it's just can be very up and down. But the fact that Tennessee is just this much in the mix, again, for a kid out of Georgia. And, everybody that lives in Georgia is not a built-in Georgia fan. That's no guarantee, especially in like Atlanta and stuff. There's a lot of institutions and fandoms to choose from when you live in a big city like that.
There's a lot of transplants to that area as well.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly where I don't think he's from Atlanta. I might be misspeaking there. He's Lilburn, Georgia. Yeah, I'm not going to act like I know actually where that is in the state of Georgia. I'll be totally honest, but regardless, there's pro teams in Georgia and there's stuff like that to choose from. So you may not be a UGA fan, but still, Kirby Smart's trying to lock down the state of Georgia. Obviously, he's gotten a ton of incredible talent from that state, and a ton of incredible talent comes from that state constantly. And so if you could go and grab this kid, it would just be absolutely ridiculous. You already got the number one quarterback from the state of Georgia in Jake Merklinger, and he was at this event today for On 3. And it just would be crazy, but it has to happen first for me to just be over the moon about it. I'm super happy that they are so far in the mix with these kids. The On 3 recruiting machine gives Mike Matthews a 78% chance to choose Tennessee over Clemson and Georgia. Are you kidding me? It's crazy. But that alone is exciting, but it's not going to be real excitement until he actually chooses Tennessee, which hopefully maybe that official visit weekend, maybe that's when. But let's also say this, before he ever even gets there, I think he's going to Georgia and Alabama in his Georgia and USC, and he visited Alabama in April. So lot of competition there. Obviously, one of the top wide receiver recruits in America. But
Big Ten Jeff makes a pretty good point here. UGA has not produced wide receivers in a while, and we were actually talking about this before we started recording. And do not fact check us on this, but we're pretty sure AJ Green was the last wide receiver to come from Georgia. Again, don't fact check us, but it's been a while since they've produced any great wide receivers.
Definitely, yeah, absolutely true. And that offense doesn't exactly inspire like, oh, come here and you're just going to get a ton of reception. It's going to be it's an antiquated, just not. It works because Georgia's defense is ridiculous and the offense is good enough.
The offensive line was like having a wall, a brick wall in front of Stetson Bennett.
Yeah, it's obviously he gets the job done pretty well. They won the national championship by 60, but
Ohio State, Big Ten Jeff's right. Ohio State has grabbed a couple of quarterbacks from the state of Georgia that have worked out pretty well.
Yeah, well, it's Ohio State at the moment. I mean, they are sort of the preeminent wide receiver spot. Tennessee's coming for that, but Tennessee did have top wide receiver in America this past year. Nothing big, no big deal, just a Biletnikoff winner, nothing serious. But anyway, this is just big. I mean, it's a big recruiting development, and you just can't give enough applause to Josh Heupel right now. And obviously, that's just going to get even more exciting if they can just land all of these kids. Now, on that
just
note,
get one of Wingo or Matthews. Really, getting both would be incredible, but you just get one of those guys, and it's a win.
Yes, because those, I mean, they are class changers. That's what that is. That is a kid like a Nico Iamaleava, where other kids look and they go, whoa, they are doing something real at Tennessee. Maybe I need to give them a harder look. And now, I'll say this: you already got a 4-star. You got a 4-star to commit over the weekend, and we haven't even mentioned this yet. Peyton Lewis, a running back, which I think is really exciting because, obviously, just like wide receiver, a running back in Josh Heupel's offense, what an exciting position, and what it would be so much fun to play in Josh Heupel's offense almost anywhere. But running back, wide receiver, it's just got to be a joy. Peyton Lewis from Salem, Virginia, 4-star. He is the number 3 player from the state of Virginia, the number 15 running back in America, according to 247. A great pickup. So, I mean, things are chugging along. Tennessee on 247 Sports, number 8 class in America at the moment. You're top 10. And you keep getting guys like you've already gotten at the 4-star level. And then you add 2 5-stars. And at this point, Tennessee's in on more, I want to say, than just that.
Yeah, a lot on the defensive side of the ball as well.
Yeah, Sammy Brown, who we played in the first second, our interview with him. I mean, yeah, this could end up being edge of top 5 in America class if you get some of these guys in the fold. And that is just crazy. And it's the thing that we've been waiting on. Now that you got that 11-win season, got that out of the way. Obviously, you got to keep doing it. But man, that elite recruiting is how you get to that Georgia level. And this would be that elite recruiting. So hopefully it all happens. Keep that momentum going. Keep doing cool things like this 865 Live. And maybe it's all going to pay off soon.
Yeah,
See.
I think Tennessee's at a point right now where, they won 11 games last year. They're on the verge of really exploding in college football and being a perennial threat to some of the top teams in the nation. But they're at that point right now where they've got to get over the finish line. So that means you've got to go win 10 or 11 games again in 2023. I mean, I know they have their sights set higher, but either way, you've got to go win like 10 games and keep the momentum going. You've also, and this is out of Tennessee's control, but you really need Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman, Hendon Hooker, even Velus Jones, who was drafted last year. You need them to go have success in the NFL. You need them to disprove some of these narratives. And not all of that is on Tennessee. I mean, the scheme is supposed to, help prepare them. The coaches help prepare them for the NFL. But ultimately, once you get to the NFL, it's on you to put in the work. If Stetson Bennett doesn't succeed in the NFL, it's not he won 2 national championships at Georgia. He did his job. He put up some decent, pretty good numbers even as a quarterback. If he fails in the NFL, it's on him. That doesn't really come back on Georgia. But if Hendon Hooker goes and fails in the NFL, it's going to come back on Tennessee just because of the scheme, because of the narrative that was put out there all through the pre-draft process. So you really need Hooker, and that might be more in the 2024, and Hyatt and Tillman to really go out there and have good. They don't have to go out and be Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson as a rookie, but you got to go out there and hold your own, start some games, make some big plays, and at least, have a career in the NFL and stick on a roster. If you're there and you're catching, 40 passes for 650 yards a season, that's not that impressive. But at that point, it's like, okay, that's on you to get better. It's not the scheme that was holding you back that you played in at college. And I think most people kind of understand that, but that's kind of what's been weaponized against Tennessee on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, a lot of puzzle pieces still have to fall in place. There's no doubt about that, but it's all, I think the formula is there for it to all happen. Will it all happen? Before this last football season, you wouldn't have caught me saying Tennessee was going to win 11 games. Here we are.
I mean, we felt like 9 wins was the best case scenario, really.
Exactly. So you never know with what Josh Heupel is doing in Tennessee so far, man. He's been a miracle worker. Period. Miracle worker. So nothing will surprise me. It's just going to be time. Time will tell. That's going to wrap. Anything else with recruiting, Zach? Before we go, I think we covered it for the most part.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be able to jump back on here in maybe next week or at least in the coming weeks and discuss some of the fruits of this past weekend and what Tennessee's going to get out of it.
I really, really hope so, because I think he could be big, and we'll just have to see. Now we're going to talk about, man, we made our predictions last week for the baseball team for the postseason, and they did not come true already. And we're going to talk about Tennessee's draw in the NCAA tournament for baseball and the softball team making it to the College World Series. Huge for them. Love that for Karen Weekly. And we'll talk about it right after to tell you about Rattle and Snap Tennessee Select Straight Whiskey. Few things go better with a Tennessee Sports victory than an awesome whiskey. And I'm talking specifically about Rattle and Snap Tennessee Whiskey. Logstill Distillery has released a new Tennessee whiskey product line called Rattle and Snap, named after a long-forgotten game of chance. Rattle and Snap is a whiskey for those who make their own luck. There's a 4-year and an 8-year version. You can see the 4-year version in the corner of the YouTube video there. I've had both. They're so good. Great in cocktails. Great straight into a glass. So go get your bottle anywhere across the state of Tennessee. Rattle and Snap is also available in Kentucky, Indiana, and Mississippi. Run and don't walk to get yourself some Rattle and Snap Tennessee Select Straight Whiskey for those Tennessee victories. Follow Rattle and Snap on Instagram at Rattle and Snap Whiskey. So Tennessee baseball went to the SEC tournament. Things didn't go so hot. They pretty much pitching, relatively speaking, was decent. 3 runs given up in a game. I mean, it's not like they got blown off the field. They scored no runs and almost got no hit. I believe it was 1 hit in that game. And that 1 hit came in like the 8th inning or something. I have to go back and look at the exact details there, but it is brutal. Brutal. And this is, as far as what we've said about this team, this was kind of the sum of all fears. You got a pretty good performance on the mound, which you've gotten all season from all your pitchers. Like, More than good enough if you have a decently powerful offense. And the offense just can't deliver. It was just like pulling teeth watching that game against Texas A&M. And so they're out of the SEC tournament. And now the NCAA tournament, Tennessee does not host. I think if they would have won a couple games in the SEC tournament, they would have, but they didn't. And so they're going to Clemson. Interesting draw here. What did you think of this, Zach?
Yeah, it was disappointing for sure. I mean, you felt like they had to at least win that opening game, and then you kind of get into double elimination, and you can kind of see what happens. You win that first game, maybe you get in a rhythm. But ultimately, the worst part of it is that they don't get to host the regional, especially considering how this team played on the road. They weren't good on the road this season. They struggled plenty at times. So that's the downside to it. But also you look at, we talked about it a lot. You look at Ole Miss last season, exact same scenario pretty much. They go into the SEC tournament. They lose to Vanderbilt. Similar score. They lose 3-1. They at least did, muster a little bit of offense. They have to go to Miami, and playing the regional there. And, they make a run. They make their run. I think they lose one game the rest of the way on their way to a national championship. And it's there for Tennessee. It's still all there. Like every single goal. Yeah, the path is a little bit harder than it should have been. You win a couple of games that you should have this season. Maybe you're hosting this weekend. It's a lot easier, but eventually you're going to have to win away from Knoxville if you don't want to win it all, right? So it doesn't really matter if it's the regional that you've got to go on the road, or if it's, when you get to Omaha. What does it matter at that point, really? You've got to, if you want to be a championship team, you got to be able to win away from Knoxville. I mean, it's that simple. So they're, they got to go prove it now. Maybe a little bit sooner than they wanted to, but that's what it comes down to.
At least a little bit of a fun fact here, and this guarantees nothing and really doesn't mean much, but I believe the last two NCAA champions, Mississippi State and Ole Miss, neither of them won a game in the SEC tournament, and then went on to win a national championship for both of them. Both of them had kind of mediocre regular seasons, went on to win a national championship. Anything can happen, but this could just not shape up almost worse for Tennessee. Your competition could have been tougher than Clemson. Clemson got to host pretty much exclusively because they won the ACC tournament. I don't want to say exclusively. I mean, they had a good season, 43-17. That was a great season, but Tennessee was 38-19. I mean, they weren't like just crazily better than Tennessee was this season, and they weren't the best team in the ACC during the regular season.
And the ACC tournament was kind of weird. There was rain. They were moving games from Durham to Chapel Hill and on campus at UNC. It was an odd tournament. So it fluky, maybe. I don't know, but it was.
Didn't Wake Forest won the league in the regular season, right? Wake Forest.
They had the same. I think they lost like 9 regular season games, just like Tennessee last year.
They were very, very good. And Virginia was right there too. I think they were maybe number 2 in the ACC. But regardless, you're going to play Clemson, who's the ACC champion. And here's, I'll give a little hope here. Tennessee can more than win this. Their opening game is against Charlotte. They should win that. Mm-hmm. Then it'll be Lipscomb or Clemson. I think it'll be Clemson.
You never know, though.
The Bison.
Yeah,
Lipscomb. You never know. It could absolutely happen. But either one of those, very winnable. And it obviously it's at Clemson. You have to win. He hasn't won all season. That's the long and the short of this. You have to win road games. Tennessee hasn't won all season. It's like that simple. Start winning road games. But I've been saying that all year. Please start winning road games, and they just never did. Until I was holding out hope, hoping against hope. They finally won a series on the road in the final series of the season against South Carolina, and then just fell totally flat at the SEC tournament. So I will put it this way.
Maybe the state of South Carolina will be good luck for them since they're going back there.
Hey, maybe you beat Clemson in the Orange Bowl, maybe because it's Clemson. You kind of shock them here. But, I mean, the good news is your guess is as good as mine. I don't know. Like, that's the best I can give you. I'll just say it to you, Zach. Are they making it out of the regional, making it to a super regional?
I think they do. I think they do. I don't know why I feel that way. Maybe it's just like the Ole Miss and the Mississippi State thing, and just the way these seasons tend to transpire. the highlight. I could see Wake Forest, falling the way Tennessee did last season. Maybe they,
Sure.
made it to a super regional and then they go out. But I could see Tennessee getting to the super regional, and then we'll see what happens from there. Kind of all bets are off. And I think if they advance, they go to Auburn, right? Is that correct? I think.
I don't. This isn't the bracket. It's just laid out in words here. What I'm looking at, I think that's right. I want to say
Pretty sure
I
that's
saw
right.
that.
Maybe somebody in the comments
Yeah.
on the. But yeah, I mean, I think they get past it. I think they'll beat Charlotte, and I think they can. I think they can beat Clemson for sure. I mean, they should beat Clemson. Really, all things being equal, even with it being on the road, that's a game Tennessee should win.
Yes, absolutely. You swept teams that are far better overall on the season than Clemson. So
Assuming it's Clemson again, no disrespect to Lipstrom there.
no, the only reason that I think Tennessee may advance is because this has just been the year of kind of like exercising these demons against these brands that we've hated for so long.
Yeah.
So it's, you beat Duke, you beat Clemson, you beat Alabama, you beat LSU, like all of these things you did this year. And it would just be kind of fitting, I feel like, to go and beat Clemson here. That next one in the super regional, we'll see. But I'll predict that too. I'll say Tennessee at least makes it out of this round. But of course we said that already. My prediction was Tennessee would make College World Series, though. That was my prediction.
Yeah.
But I also said they would beat Arkansas in the SEC tournament, and they never even made it to that game. So
yeah, I think I had them beating Texas A&M, but I don't think I had them going past the double elimination.
Yeah, we both said they'd beat Texas A&M, and that just nope, not even close. Not even close.
That's baseball. You run into a pitcher that's on any given night, and he's got all of his stuff working. It can be really hard to get hits, no matter how great the offense is. I mean, Monday night, the Tampa Bay Rays are a team that just puts up hit after hit after hit, and they got one hit by the Cubs, Marcus Stroman, over 9 innings. Like, that just happens to good teams sometimes.
It really does. Baseball is weird. And because baseball is weird, I mean, I kind of give Tennessee has a fighting chance. Absolutely has a fighting chance here. And just go and take it. Go and win. Try a new batting lineup. I don't know. Do something to get this thing going. And maybe it will. We'll watch it and we'll talk about it next week. But we'll finish with a little bit of talk about the rule changes for next year. We promised last week to a listener who commented. He said that he really wanted us to talk about how the rule change will affect Josh Heupel's offense, the running clock after a first down. And we're going to talk about that, but then also talk about the SEC spring meetings currently in Destin, Florida. And that's where it's at, right? Destin. And they're talking about whether the SEC will play 8 or 9 league games when Texas and Oklahoma come in. And we're going to talk about that right after our final sponsor, Superbook Sports, gets their time here in the old spotlight. Bring that big bet energy this summer with Superbook Sports. Superbook Sports is the most trusted name in sports betting. And right now, use promo code A2Z to score up to $250 with their first bet bonus. Win or lose, they will match your first bet up to $250 with promo code A2Z. Simply visit superbook.com for terms and conditions or download the Superbook Tennessee app in the App Store. Enter the promo code A2Z and you'll get $250 courtesy of Superbook Sports. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER, GAMBLER. The Superbook Sports Tennessee app. Download it right now. Start putting in those bets. A lot of fun right now. NBA Finals. Not exactly the NBA Finals that I bet the NBA wanted to have happen. The Heat and the Nuggets playing in the finals. The Celtics just blowing it sky high in that conference final. But man,
weird series from them. Go down 3-0 and win 3 in a row, and then just not show up for Game 7. So
tough.
Quite a strategy.
Tough moment for Grant Williams in that one too.
Oh yeah.
Let's not even talk about it.
He's become quite the polarizing figure in the NBA.
Yeah, he really has. And for a guy, I think, what does he average? Like 9 points a game or something? Good, like solid dude.
Yeah.
For one of the best teams in the league.
He's kind of like a Draymond Green light, maybe.
Yes.
Would that be a good description?
Absolutely. Yeah. Similar style of play overall. He's not as much of a kind of banger as Draymond is, but Yeah, he is. He needs to not talk as much.
The
Let's
NBA,
go
I
in.
don't know. I know there's a lot of people that aren't into the NBA these days, but if you, and maybe it's just because the job I do, it's all consumed by sports all the time, but it really is like a reality TV is what the NBA is at this point. It truly is. It's compelling. It really is, but it is bizarre at times.
Yeah, John Morant and all that stuff going on.
Yeah.
Ugh. Don't even get me started. All right. So this rule change where the clock will not stop after a first down, starting this season, I believe. And it's NFL rules essentially as far as that goes. And it's interesting because we don't exactly know how it's going to affect Josh Heupel's offense because nobody in the NFL runs Josh Heupel's offense. There's like elements of it here and there, and offenses that run a little more spread and things like that. But nobody is doing what Josh Heupel does in the NFL, and so we're not exactly sure how it's going to affect. Like a lot of people have had theories about this, where it's like, well, it could help Tennessee because it's to their advantage to have the clock just run, and you're gonna score close to the same amount of points, but the clock will run and it'll run quicker and. Also for the defense, maybe theoretically you'll run less plays, so your defense won't be as tired. But also, is it that simple? When you look at it, Zach, how do you think this will affect Hype's offense?
Yeah, I don't think this is a rule that's like geared towards slowing offenses down or slowing tempo down. I think it's just to shorten the games, remove some plays from the games, like you mentioned. That's the biggest thing. I don't think it'll really impact Heupel's offense at all. And I don't think Josh Heupel feels that way either. Heupel's smart enough to know that, like, he's smart enough to know what he doesn't know. So he doesn't know 100% how it will look until they go out there and actually play games or simulate it in practices. And he actually talked about this earlier this month at a Big Orange Caravan stop. I'm not sure where he was at. He was in Chattanooga, one of the last stops. He said it's not going to change how the game is played for any offense, any style. When the ball is set, it will be ready. It shortens the game in some respects. I guess we'll see more on the back end what type of changes it actually has. He was also asked, specifically about up-tempo offenses, if it would impact it. He said, again, it just shortens the game. We'll see how much of an effect that actually has on number of possessions per game, that type of thing. So it seems like Heupel is just assuming, hey, it's a few less maybe snaps that Tennessee will have during the course of a game. And Tennessee's they run a lot of plays because of how fast their offense runs, but running as many plays as possible isn't really their goal. It's scoring as fast as possible, keeping that tempo up, tiring defenses out, keeping them guessing, keeping them on their toes. That's the point of the tempo. It's not so they can run 90 plays a game. If it's 90 or 80, I don't think Heupel really cares as long as they're getting the ball in the end zone. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. How will it change Josh Heupel's offense? It won't. He's going to run what he's going to run, and he was always going to do that, really, no matter, unless they change the rules where he literally cannot run it anymore within
which
the
is kind of what
rules.
Saban had kind of floated out there. It's like, hey, why don't you make it to where they can't snap the ball until there's like 25 seconds left on the play clock? And it's like, well, why even have a play clock if that's if you're going to do that?
Unless it's that, Josh Heupel's going to do what Josh Heupel does. Period. And the things that it will affect will be out of his control. The total number of plays, things like that. And I just see it kind of
timeout strategies it could affect a little.
Yes, late in game, 2-minute strategies.
Which I think it does stop under 2 minutes. It does stop under 2 minutes, right?
That's right.
I believe that's the case. So
yep.
Even then, it's not dire. I mean, you're not usually trying to hurry up and snap the ball while the clock is stopped with 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. So it's just not going to be over the top. And it works on both sides. Like I kind of said, it may cut off some plays for Tennessee overall, but it's also going to cut off some plays for your defense. And maybe your defense isn't as tired as they would be overall anyway. And I just don't think it's going to change that much.
The only impact I see it having, and this is league wide, this isn't specific to Tennessee at all, is if you're down by 14 points with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, then you're losing those kind of mini timeouts where they're stopping the clock to set the ball. And with Heupel's offense, as fast as they go, they can get a playoff, and it's almost like they've had a timeout in the sense that it stopped the clock, because they're, as soon as the ball's set, they're pretty much snapping it right then as soon as the clock restarts. So if you're trying to make a comeback late in the game, it could get a little tricky. Perhaps you'll have a little bit less time to work with there, but that's going to be, everybody's going to be facing that.
It really is just going to kind of be an experiment of sorts. We're just going to have to see how it plays out. So honestly, I don't want to say I'm nervous about it. I'm just kind of interested to see if any kind of game management changes, things like that. Yeah, I mean, Mr. Jones says out of bounds still stops the clock, right? Yeah.
There was somebody. Yeah, somebody did float at one point that the clock would keep going on incompletions except under 2 minutes, and that just kind of goes against the spirit of the game. And that's not a rule that was passed. I don't even think it was seriously entertained, but I think it was kind of thrown out there by maybe a coach or an athletic director, just probably trying to stir the pot. Who knows?
I mean, that would just be a running clock. Like, that's you would take away so much strategy there.
If you want to speed the game up, I've always thought that they should do away with this clock stopping up to first downs. It just seems so archaic at this point, especially as conditioned. And these athletes are almost pro ready sometimes when they get to high school, just about with the way that youth sports are these days and the way they specialize. But I always thought that was a good idea. Shorten the half times. I mean, that would cut 12 minutes out of the game immediately if you went down to NFL half times. And yeah, I know bands like to go out there and do the halftime shows, but that lengthens the game a bit. Speed up the replays. For whatever reason, college replays seem like they take forever. And whatever the challenge system is, can we quit pretending like it is? There is a challenge system, because if you want it looked at, it will get looked at. We've kind of learned that over the last few years, and it seems like there's no limits on that. So, and then Mr. Jones mentioned shortening commercials. I'm not sure, what they can do with that. Yeah, there's money involved there. That's probably the last thing that would get touched. But there are some different ways they can shorten games, and yeah, I don't know how much this will shorten games. Not stopping the clock on first downs. I mean, maybe 5 minutes you might save, if that. It's not going to be a lot of time.
Yeah, it's not going to be like the NFL, where it's generally speaking, a pretty tight 3 hours. It's just not. It's not going to happen. College ball, it just got too much going on.
It would be interesting. Baseball made a huge change this year with the pitch clock, and it has significantly shortened games, and it's made baseball a lot more watchable. And even for me, somebody that loves baseball, and I'd sit there and watch a 4-hour game and be okay with it. It's made it a lot more watchable, I feel like. So maybe it'll make the sport a little bit better.
Absolutely. Elias, he says, howdy. Vol streaming at 7 p.m. Well, we're about to bounce. But what's up? Glad you're here.
And on Elias. A Tuesday.
Yeah, Elias, another regular listener. We appreciate it. But we'll finish with this. I'll just make this just a prediction. So just a short one here on the end. It is the SEC spring meetings in Destin, Florida. Right now, the Feinbaum shows down there, and all the reporters are down there, and they're, what are they going to decide? The big one that's coming up, when Texas and Oklahoma join the league, the structure of the league is going to change in football. Basketball is going to be generally kind of not untouched, but stay pretty similar. But football, it could go to 9 league games, or it could stay at 8 league games, but it would basically be at 9 league games, you have 2 permanents.
3.
And then rotating 3?
3 and 6.
Okay.
Because if you have 16 teams, you've got 3 permanent. Yourself, obviously, then that leaves 12.
Oh, right.
So that way you'd play every program twice every 4 years.
And then at 8 games, it's 2, you and one other team.
The 8 game, you would just have like for Tennessee, the assumption is it would be Vanderbilt, and then everything else would rotate. So you wouldn't necessarily play Alabama every year anymore.
Yeah, and most teams you would play every 4.
I think you would still, because that would be 7 and 7.
Yeah,
that's 14. So yeah, you would play every team still twice every 4 years.
Yeah. So I'll just kind of throw it to you. What do you think they're going to decide this week? There's no guarantee they're going to decide it this week, but a lot of people think they will. Where do you think they go? 8 or 9? Are they going to be gutsy enough to go 9?
Well, Nick Saban is still kind of railing against the 9 games, and then you've got Kirby Smart saying, "I don't care. This is a dumb conversation. You just got to win against whoever you play
Yeah.
against." I think Missouri's for 9 games, Kentucky's for 8 games. Josh Heupel's just kind of said it doesn't really matter what I think. They're going to do what they do. Which to me, if I was Josh Heupel, I'd be like, "Hey, why stop at 9? Let's do 10 or 11, just to be that guy," because they're obviously never going to do that, but. I think I've seen this floated out there that they're going to try to push it down the line a little bit, go with a temporary 8-game schedule in 2024 with the one permanent opponent, and that's just to buy them some time for the TV money, because that's really what is the big holdup on this. Outside of Saban's deal, where he just doesn't want to play another SEC team, he wants to pick that 9th game against a Power 5 opponent and be in control of that, which I can understand, especially with the playoff expanding. That extra SEC game could keep you out of the playoff.
Yep.
If Alabama plays, Georgia last season, in addition to Tennessee and LSU, they don't make a 12-team playoff probably, because they have 3 losses, and I can understand that aspect. 9 games in the SEC is not like 9 games in the Big 10 or 9 games in the Big 12 or any other conference that would play a 9-game schedule. I think eventually it gets to that, but I think they'll put it down off a year.
I agree. I think that's exactly where I'm at. I think they wimp out on the 8 games this year, and then it inevitably goes to 9 eventually
in like 2025.
Yes, if it's that quick, maybe a couple more years after that, even. But I agree. I think that's what's going to end up happening. But like Mr. Jones said, they can't take the Bama Tennessee game away. They're not going to do away with the Iron Bowl though. That comes first for Alabama. Yep. And so that one would get sacrificed, at least for however long they keep eight games with a 16-team league. I mean, Tennessee, it's kind of the same thing. You're not going to take Tennessee Vandy away. As stupid as that game is, generally speaking. I mean, Vandy is a joke of a school not a joke of a joke of an athletic program. It's a pretty good school, but joke of an athletic program. It is what it is, but they're 2.5 hours down the road, and they're in the same state. It just is what it is.
Do you think this new schedule, whenever whether it's 8 games or 9 games, you're introducing a whole new, so you're not just limited to the SEC East plus Bama and a SEC West opponent. Suddenly it's going to be Vanderbilt, and then you're probably going to be playing Alabama one year. You'll be playing Georgia the next year. Then LSU is going to be paired with one of those. And then Oklahoma is going to be paired with one of those. I mean, is it harder or easier for Tennessee? Because my gut says this schedule is fixing to get a lot harder for everybody in the SEC, because you're not going to have necessarily Missouri, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, South Carolina, which you should beat most years, all in the same year. And in some years you would play Alabama and Mississippi State. You're not going to get that type of schedule anymore.
I think it will get harder for everyone except Auburn and Tennessee, because Auburn and Tennessee have been playing Georgia and Alabama every year.
That's true.
Always. And so we've been locked into these nightmare games constantly for at least that Georgia game hasn't been a nightmare game for this entire time, but for the last 5 years it has been.
And even before that, I mean, they'd won like 3 out of 8 there in one stretch.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It wasn't exactly easy, and so
plus Florida.
Plus Florida. And so I think for everybody else, it does get tougher, but overall it gets more equitable. You don't get like Georgia this season where they're playing an absolute snoozer of a schedule. You'll get Georgia going to Texas. You'll get Georgia going to Alabama. You get Georgia, just something like that where it'll iron these things out. And one year will be easier. One year will be a little tougher. And I think that's just fine. I'm all for this. I think eventually it's going to go to 9. They're going to have to redo TV deals too with 9 games. I mean, that's a huge piece of it. They're going to have to redo the TV deal. So that could actually push out the horizon for 9 games, I think, because that stuff takes a while to iron out. But like, I think for now, it probably will be 8 games. I really thought it was going to be 9 games for a really long time, but it just feels like now that it's actually
it seemed like an automatic. It seemed like an automatic until Saban started complaining back in February or March, and which was a surprise because he'd pushed for 9 games for so long, but now he feels like the ability to schedule that Power 5 game, which was always there, really. I mean, you could schedule whatever you want.
Exactly.
I don't know. seems like once it came time to like, put your money where your mouth is type deal, that Saban kind of backed away from what he'd been asking for all this time, which is really ironic, in a big way.
It's always Saban. It just every time it just comes back to him. Like, God,
he's not going to get his way on this because
he's not.
He's on his way out. And I'm not going to say he's on his way out in the next year or two or even the next 5 years. Who knows how long he will coach? But a decade from now, Nick Saban is not going to be Nick Saban that he is now. But a decade from now, the SEC is still hoping to be, reigning supreme in college football and making as much money as possible. And it's inevitable that 9 games is going to happen, expanding the league to 16 teams. And who knows beyond that? It won't be the last time that the conference expands. We know that.
And that'll be the day when Saban finally gets out of this league. My goodness, what a nightmare that guy is. Okay, well, that's pretty much it. Charlie Burris, Zach Reagan. Thank you to everybody who watches and comments. Elias, Mr. Jones, even Big Ten Jeff sometimes. Let's see, who else we got? We got Mitch today. Had Nugs popped in for a minute. It was a good day in the comments. Thank you for watching. We really, really appreciate it. I mean, this honestly, like, the show has kind of been popping off during this offseason. The clips have been going crazy. So thank you to everybody who's been watching those. Seriously, I mean, that's how we get these sponsors, and that's how this show continues and how Zach and I get paid. So seriously, that's amazing. Please keep watching everything. It means a lot. Other than that, anything else for the folks at home, Zach?
I think that should about do it for this week.
Yeah, I think so. All right. Charlie Burris, Zach Reagan, thanks again for watching, and we'll talk to y'all next week.
See you guys later.